I feel like when talking about the Indianapolis Colts and how they did in this year's draft, it's important to provide some proper context. First, is I feel like the evaluation of Chris Ballard as general manager can truly begin. He was saddled with Chuck Pagano in 2017, so you had to ride out the string until the inevitability of being able to send his ass packing. Chuck Strong can go somewhere else. So, you talk about the draft class that he brought in, how much of that class were you really going to get a lot out of under Pagano's tutelage? It's a fair question. So now that Ballard's been able to hire his own head coach in Frank Reich, it feels like the evaluation of what Chris Ballard is doing as the general manager can really begin. Also, regardless of anything else, regardless of how good this draft class is, regardless of how many of these guys pan out, the only thing that truly matters for the Colts at this stage is the health of Andrew Luck. And it is very simple. If Andrew Luck can come back and be the Andrew Luck of before and be a star, then the Colts situation got a whole lot better in a hurry. If it doesn't happen that way and Luck doesn't come back to that level or close to that level, then the situation got a whole lot worse in a hurry. And for the Colts, they will look back at this draft as a potential real missed opportunity to get that replacement for Andrew Luck. Because not only did they not draft a quarterback high, they didn't draft one at all. So there is an inherent risk for this draft class here. And you could talk about hoping and wishing and praying, but the real truth is, even if the organization has confidence, founded or unfounded, in Andrew Luck's shoulder and his recovery and his rehab and his ability to play in 2018, that's all it is right now, is hoping, wishing, and praying. Until it happens, it's not happening. So, could we look back on this draft for the Colts and say, they should have drafted this quarterback, they should have drafted this guy, or more so, they wish they would have drafted that guy because based off of what happened, now it set the organization back for years. So you have to keep that in mind, I think, when you look at what the Colts did. Now, in terms of their draft, I think easily their best pick was Quentin Nelson, the offensive guard for Notre Dame. The number one overall player in the draft on many people's boards, including mine. And think about it this way. The Colts were able to get 3 second-round picks. Now, count that. Not 1, not 2, but 3 second-round picks to move back just 3 spots in round 1 to go from number 3 to number 6. And they were still able to get the number one player, arguably, in this draft. When you talk about gold jacket possibilities, the guy on the surface right now that looks like he has the most gold jacket possibility is Quentin Nelson. The Colts traded back 3 spots, got 2 second-round picks in the 2018 draft, a second-round pick in the 2019 draft, and were able to get the draft's best player. That's not bad work. That's really, really damn good work. And especially with how the beginning of the draft played out, with Mayfield going 1 and Barkley going 2 and Darnold going number 3. Once you got to the Browns at 4, if they passed on Bradley Chubb, that meant that the Colts would have traded back and gotten a chance at either one of the top 2 players in this draft, or one of them. Whichever one fell to them, they could take and feel incredibly happy and confident with. And that's what happened. Chubb goes 5 to Denver after Denzel Ward surprisingly goes 4 to Cleveland. And Quentin Nelson falls right in the Colts' lap. It's one of those things, the situation plays out well, you just make the move. Yes, it's an offensive guard, but if the guard is special, he is worth taking at pick 6. And Quentin Nelson is special, and he was totally worth it for the Colts to take him at 6. Especially when you consider, still, the number one priority for the Colts is to protect Andrew Luck. Because if he does come back and he is healthy, you need to keep him upright. You need to help him stay healthy. And the best way to do that, of course, is by improving the protection in front of him. So they definitely did that there. And you look at following that up in round 2, drafting the guard Braden Smith from Auburn, it's interesting because you're wondering, are they going to try flipping Muhort out to right tackle, or are they thinking Braden Smith is going to play right tackle? But you've invested multiple picks into the offensive line, premium picks at that, something that Grigson horribly failed at during his years as a general manager. You have to feel better about the situation that Andrew Luck is coming back into. At least you feel like that he will get a lot better protection, especially if Ryan Kelly, the center, is healthy. Now you throw in Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, maybe Muhort does play out at right tackle. You still got Costanzo at left tackle. You've got a solid to pretty solid offensive line, and that's a really good foundation for what you want to do. They finally addressed it, and that's a big win for Chris Ballard and the Colts organization. When I look at this draft, they got the 4 second-round picks ultimately because they traded up into the tail end of round 2 to get a 4th one. I don't know if the entirety of the work was that impressive to me. I thought Darius Leonard was a 2-round reach. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't play up to a second-round type pick. I'm not saying that. I'm saying based off of who he was and what I saw out of him at South Carolina State, to me, he was kind of a 4th-round prospect. So I felt like the team gambled quite a bit here in round 2. I absolutely love Kemoko Turay. I thought he was the best of their second-round picks, honestly. Now, this is a guy that's had some injury issues in the past, but I would not put it past him to come in and make a Yannick Ngakoue or Carl Lawson type of impact in year 1. He projects very well to the NFL, and I'll be curious to see how they utilize him in that Colts 4-3 defense. Can't wait to see what happens there. But I felt like Tyquan Lewis was a reach as well. They really have to hope that out of the 4 second-round picks that they took, that at least 2 of them really panned out. Like if Darius Leonard, Braden Smith pan out, then they feel good. If Kemoko Turay also pans out, then they feel great. And if Tyquan Lewis pans out, then they got to feel outstanding about this because we're assuming right now that Quentin Nelson will totally pan out. That would give the Colts 5 of the top 64 players in the draft. That would give them 5 impact players and major contributors to their team. That could affect a real quick turnaround in Indianapolis. You also look at they addressed the running back position multiple times. While it wasn't early, they still find guys that could come in and contribute with Nyheim Hines from North Carolina State and Jordan Wilkins in round 5 from Ole Miss. If either one of those guys can become a contributor, then it just adds to the strength of this draft class. I look at the overall philosophy here. I felt like maybe the team should have taken some of those second-round picks and dealt back up into round 1, especially to get somebody, let's say, like a Calvin Ridley, or especially when somebody like an Isaiah Wynn was falling. I'm like, ugh. Or maybe you should have traded back up to the tail end of round 1 to get Will Hernandez. Imagine fielding an interior offensive line that has Quentin Nelson at left guard, Will Hernandez at right guard, and Ryan Kelly at center. You probably have the best interior line of all of football. I feel like that was worth parting with a 2nd and 3rd round pick to move up into the tail end of round 1 to make that happen. If you want to fully protect Luck, then go balls deep. Let's get nuts. And I feel like it was a missed opportunity. I was also a little disappointed in them that they didn't get any more draft pick capital of note for 2019 outside of the 2nd round pick they got from the Jets to move back from 3 to 6. Maybe they felt like they had so many holes on the roster that they needed to draft players now, and I get that, but maybe it would have been nice for them to be able to get even more currency for next year. Wait to see how 2018 plays out, because if Luck can't come back healthy or he gets back and then he gets hurt again, then you're potentially having to start the damn thing over. You might want as much draft pick ammo as possible to be able to get in a position to move up to a quarterback if one so strikes your fancy. Like I said, just because you take a bunch of players high doesn't automatically mean that it was great. And I do feel like some of the picks that they took in round 2 were odd. In fact, I could point to all of them as being a little bit odd. I really could. I feel like both Turay and Tyquan Lewis are better suited for a 3-4. And unless I missed the memo, I thought the Colts were flipping to a 4-3. Maybe they're not. Or maybe they're going to do a lot of hybrid and such defenses. But it seemed like kind of an odd fit, although I like Turay's fit a little bit better than Lewis's. Braden Smith, especially with Muhort already there at right guard, you basically drafted another right guard, which means you have to flip Muhort potentially to a different position or Braden Smith to an unnatural position. Darius Leonard, like I said, felt like a pretty big reach. But when I look at the overall depth of the class, if you get Quentin Nelson to develop and become the dude that he should be, you get 2 of the 4 second-round picks to pan out. You get 1 of the 2 running backs that you took to pan out. And then let's say either Daurice Fountain from UNI or Deon Cain from Clemson pans out. Then this ended up being a really great draft class. And ultimately only time will tell. There were things to like, and I love the philosophy that they took with prioritizing protecting Andrew Luck. But ultimately, again, this draft will be a fail if Andrew Luck gets hurt again and misses a lot of time. Because they will have passed on the opportunity to draft somebody like a Sam Darnold or a Josh Allen or what have you, or trade back up into round 1 to get somebody like a Lamar Jackson, and they'll be searching for a quarterback next year, and you never know, potentially 4 years to come.